Well, what's up, guys? My name is Zack Black. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to Weekly Wellness Wednesday. Today, I have a great question for you guys, and that is your ego running you? And for me, the past week, I've been dealing a lot with my own ego, and I've noticed we haven't really made a dedicated video about the ego. I think I've mentioned it a couple of times, but we haven't actually made a video about the ego and how important it is to kind of remove yourself from it to some degree. And basically what your ego is this, this facade of yourself in this life. It's kind of a compilation of your experiences, and everything. It kind of just makes up who you are in this specific life. Now, the reason it's important to get out of your ego is because your ego is very much just this one perspective of what's going on in your life. Like you're just seeing everything from right here in the middle of it. It's trying to think of a good metaphor. It's I don't know. Getting out of your ego, though, is basically like you're in the picture. As your ego, you're inside of the picture, right? You're looking from within the picture at other parts of the picture, right? You can only see from that limited perspective from your ego, though. That's why the ego isn't always good to be in all the time. So removing yourself from the ego is like basically stepping out of the painting and then being able to see the entire painting right there, rather than just that one perspective looking at, like, you're on the right side of the painting looking at the left side from the right side. You know what I'm saying? It's a very limited perception, but when you remove yourself from that ego, you can see both sides and you can just see the entire picture itself. And this can help with a lot of things. When you're living in your ego, you'll find yourself feeling, very easily upset and even maybe depressed about things that happen, and they seem to be happening to you. But when you remove yourself from your ego, it's not so much happening to you anymore. You're more becoming the observer. This is something that one of my friends mentioned. And being the observer instead of being in your ego can just make everything just kind of flow, and like all of life, everything's fine. Everything that happens is just completely okay because you're so detached and kind of just, doing your thing. You're not so much like caught in your ego, like, oh no, what am I going to do later in my life? And a lot of the issue with the ego is you're constantly thinking about the future or the past or something like that. And when you remove yourself from that and you become the observer, you're more just observing. You're watching things happen, and you're just not really putting all these expectations up of what you need to be doing, of what you did, or all this stuff. You're kind of just outside of it completely, just experiencing things purely. And it's really liberating. You feel free from it. It's beautiful. It really is. Now, people also talk about things like an ego death. I'm not so much talking about a straight up ego death. I'm more just talking about removing yourself from your ego for the most part. And you can do this through meditation, various types of meditation. You'll get to the point where you don't really need to go very much into a meditation. It's more of like a mindset. So you can kind of like flick this switch between ego and observer. And obviously you don't really want to be in one or the other all the time. I mean, preferably you'd want to stay in the observer mindset for the most part. But the ego is important. You still need your ego when you're talking to people. Like, I couldn't make these videos as effectively without my ego, obviously, because there'd be a lot less personality to it, because you're I don't know, your ego makes up a lot of your 3D personality that makes you who you are, So it's still important to have your ego, and your ego still protects you from certain things. That's why we have it. But it can also cause lots of fears because it's trying to protect you from stuff that hasn't happened, and stuff that happened in the past, and that's why it's thinking it's going to happen because it's already happened before, so it must happen again. That's kind of the ego's mindset. So when you move out of that and you're more in the observer mindset from like your higher self, you can see the whole picture. So even bad things, you view them as good things. You view them as like something that needs to happen in order to make you get to this point. You know what I mean? For me personally, there's plenty of bad things that have happened to me, just like anybody. I mean, you can't go through life without any negative things happening to you. But when you start getting into this observer mindset and viewing things from more of a higher self perspective, you start to see that these seemingly negative things are super positive, because they're molding you into the person that you're trying to be. And this can even happen if you're somebody who is manifesting a lot, or trying to manifest, and it seems like nothing's happening and all this other random stuff is happening. And normally it's because what you're trying to manifest requires a certain type of person. So your life is starting to transform slowly into or no, that's, I would put that probably a little bit better here. Your life is putting circumstances in front of you to mold you into the person that you need to become in order to manifest what you're trying to manifest. You know what I mean? So you have to have a certain personality, so certain situations and circumstances are being placed in front of you to mold you into what you're trying to become. So that's just kind of how that goes in terms of manifesting. I know we've talked about manifesting in the past, just a little bit on it now. Again, just kind of fits, I guess. But anyway, guys, you want to make sure you get out of the ego for the most part, especially when like things are just hitting you one by one, or all at once. You know, I said one by one, all at once is what I mean. Your ego can just really beat you up. I know personally my ego constantly beats me up, so especially last week, that's why I'm making this video. And I'm actually surprised we didn't have a video on the ego already that was dedicated. I can't believe that. It's just hilarious. But the ego really can be quite monstrous in your own mind, so make sure that you take a moment to really just clear your mind and realize your ego is just putting those things out there, just out of fears, you know, its own little fears. So removing yourself from it entirely can just make everything good. Anyway, a practical way to do this real quick. I didn't really mention a clear, straightforward way of doing that. A deeper meditation where you're clearing your mind is very effective, and really identifying your thoughts. Pretty much all thought is the ego. So when you're clearing your thoughts entirely, there's no room for the ego to even speak. But when the thoughts come up, you need to be able to identify them as, you know, ego thoughts. If it's fearful, if it's making you feel a certain kind of way, you can just purposely shift your perspective. Just take a deep breath and think of, like, you know, if this negative thing happens, whatever my ego is projecting into my mind, if this happens, what's going to be the repercussions? Like, what positive things are going to come out of this from, you know, this seemingly negative thing that my ego is so afraid of happening. And that alone can help you to immediately shift into this more observer mindset, rather than just being like so focused on this, you know, crazy thing that's going to happen. You know, it's this little thing and you're just like, oh my God, it's ridiculous. You know, I can't, I don't know what to do. And a lot of times when whatever that thing is actually happens, it's not even the way that your ego was predicting it. And normally it doesn't even turn out to be a negative situation in the first place. But even if it does, something positive is going to come out of it. You know, negative experiences to me are just positive ones in disguise. They're just learning experiences, you know, and that's positive to me. So anything negative is also positive at the same time. At least in the things that have happened to me. I'm not saying in every case that I've seen. Sometimes a lot of the negative shit that goes down throughout the world, especially, I don't know what kind of positive comes out of it, but I'm sure there's something. I mean, honestly, I've never encountered something where there's absolutely no positives to something seemingly negative happening. So seems like there's always some kind of positive repercussion, whether it's noticeable immediately or it's going to take the rest of your life to figure out why it was positive. You know, there's always something. Anyway, guys, that's going to pretty much sum up this video. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, please subscribe to see more of my videos. It's only if you feel led. You don't have to. Just if you want to see more, definitely. Like the videos. If you feel like it again, guys, You don't got to do any of this stuff, though. You can totally just say, fuck that, and just take off. It's all good. But if you guys do feel led, please do. It really does help out the channel. Anyway, more importantly, guys, have a fantastic day, and much love to you.